Hi there! Welcome or welcome back to our channel. If you want to do well in the advanced or proficiency certificates, or you want to get a band 8 or 9 in IELTS, then it is essential that you know how to use today's structure perfectly in your writing as well as in your speaking. During the video, there are 4 grammar tasks that are going to assess how good you are at using the structure in different contexts. And there is another little gift from us to you hidden somewhere in the middle of the video, so you don't want to miss any of that. So if you're preparing for the Cambridge Advanced exam and you want to work on your grammar, then I highly suggest you subscribe to Home Studies. Right, are you ready for today's lesson? Good, let's go. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the passive voice. Now, the passive has a bit of a bad reputation in English. People often think that it shouldn't be used in speaking or that it's only for formal writing, but I disagree with that. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why. Now, you might be a little bit skeptical about this, but I promise you it's true because I catch myself and the native speakers around me using the passive voice in speaking all the time. For instance, imagine you're taking a walk in town and you bump into a friend. They're looking a bit upset, so you ask what's wrong, and they say that their bike was stolen the night before. Or you meet up with a friend who you know has been having some problems with their bathroom. So you ask them if their plumbing problem is sorted. And they could reply something like, yeah, the pipe is being fixed. Or how about you're at work in the break room and one of your colleagues looks like they're in a really good mood. So you ask them why, and they say, well, their house has just been sold. So these are all examples of the passive voice in action, how we would use them in everyday conversations. I guess the next thing you'd like to know is when and how we use the passive voice. So in what kind of situations and in what form. Example 1. As you can see, my car was broken into last Sunday. So from this example, we don't know who broke into my car. The agent is unknown. So we use the passive voice when we don't know who did the action. Example 2. Have you heard Ed has been arrested for vandalism? So in this case, it's clear who arrested Ed. It must have been the police. So we use the passive voice when the agent of the action is obvious. It's clear who did that action. Example 3. The video has gone viral. It's being shared all over the world. So in this case, we don't know exactly who's sharing the video. It's people or they. So in this case, when the agent is people, they, someone, anyone, then we use the passive voice. Example 4. I love your shoes. Where were they made? In this case, I don't really care who made the shoes. It doesn't matter to me who the manufacturer is. So this is an example of the passive because when the agent is not important, when we don't care about who the agent is, then we would use the passive. Example 5. I see the dishes still haven't been done. So in this situation, you might be a bit annoyed by the dishes in the sink, but you don't want to name or blame the person for the action. So you don't want to say it was your husband or your daughter or your mother who failed to do the action. So in general, we use the passive voice when the agent is not blamed, when we don't say who is responsible for doing or not doing the action. Example 6. Alejandro is going to get himself injured one day. So I think that he is going to be responsible for his own injury. And in cases like this, again, we use the passive voice. So we want to make it clear that the agent is responsible for their own actions, for their own behavior. And to make this clear, we use the reflexive pronoun. So as you might know, or perhaps you could figure out, the passive is composed of two elements. It's the verb to be and the past participle. So it's the appropriate form of the verb to be. This is what changes. So it could be is, was, will be, is being, has been. And then the past participle, which is the third form of the verb, and that always stays the same. Then if the agent is important and if it's relevant to the example, you can introduce that by. Okay, why don't we try to practice this a little bit? So pause the video and try to change these 4 active sentences into the passive. In all cases, the subject is someone or they, in other words, people in general. Press play when you're ready to check your answers. So how did you do there? So in the first sentence, the object me becomes the subject I. I was invited to the party. In the second sentence, my brother changes from the object to the subject, and it becomes my brother's been offered. So my brother has been offered. Again, in the third one, me is the object, becomes I as the subject, and we've got the passive in the present continuous form. I'm being sent. And finally, you as the object simply becomes you as the subject, and then we've got the passive with the going to structure. You're going to be contacted about it. Now there's one thing that all passive sentences have in common, and that is that in the active voice, the verb has an object. So in this case, for example, they have delivered Jamal's package. So delivered is the verb and Jamal's package is the object. So this can easily be changed into the passive, right? His package has been delivered. So the verb to deliver is, in English, a transitive verb. So that is a verb that has an object. But not all verbs in English are transitive. Take a look at this example. Jamal's package has arrived. This is in the active, and there's no possible form of passive because the verb to arrive has no object. So it is intransitive. So if you want to make a passive sentence, the first thing you've got to do is see, is there an object in that sentence? Is there an object connected to the verb? Let's do a bit more practice with the passive, this time thinking a bit more carefully about the kind of verb that we have in the sentence. So remember, transitive means there's an object, intransitive means there's no object, and we can only make the passive with transitive verbs. So pause the video and say if these sentences can or cannot be changed into passive. If they can, then please transform the sentence. Okay, press play when you're ready to check your answers. So in this activity, only sentences 2 and 3 can be changed into the passive because in sentences 1 and 4, there is no object of the verb. So did you manage to spot those? Did you get them all right? You might well be wondering if there are other structures that also use the passive voice. And the short answer is yes, there are quite a few of them. So in this video, we're just going to go over a few more that are quite common and that do pop up in the advanced exam. But like I say, there's more to it than what we'll be able to cover in just this video. So let's first take a look at modals in the passive. So modals, or moodles as I like to call them, are like emojis. They change the mood of a sentence, and the passive is no exception. So let's compare these two sentences. The only difference is the modal verb. So in example 1, the locks might have been changed. So I can't open the door, but there could be another reason for it. In example 2, the locks must have been changed. In this case, I can't open the door and I'm sure this is the reason for it. So in the first sentence, we're speculating about the possibility of something. But in the second sentence, there's a degree of certainty. We know for a fact that the locks have been changed. There's no doubt about it. So two different modals can create two very different meanings in the exact same sentence. So how do we go about forming a passive sentence with a modal? Well, it's simple. If the active is something like candidates must write all the answers in pencil, then we take all the answers, we make that the subject, and we say all the answers must be written in pencil, which is the passive form. Now it's time to do a little bit of practice with modals and the passive. So look at these 4 sentences and try to change them into the passive voice using the underlined modal verb. Okay, pause the video when you're ready to check your answers. And by the way, be careful because 2 of these are modals in the present and 2 of these are modals in the past. Okay, so check your answers. And how many of these modal structures did you get right? Can you see which 2 are in the present and which 2 are in the past? Let's take a quick look at the rules because understanding those can always be helpful. So modals in the present, the rule is verb plus be plus past participle. So that's the 3rd form. In the examples we just had, it would be might be disappointed or can be brought. For modals in the past, it's verb plus have been plus the past participle. So again, in the previous examples, we have should have been told or could have been sold. So we also use the passive for passive reporting verbs, and these are used a lot, especially at higher levels. So this is when we want to report what people in general say or think or believe or know about something. For example, people say New York City is the most Instagrammed place on earth. Now, people as a subject is a bit problematic, which is why we might want to change it into the passive. So New York City becomes the subject, and then the passive reporting verb is said to be. So this could be is said to be, is known to be, is believed to be, is claimed to be. So these are all examples of these passive reporting verbs. They are a big topic and they're really important for the exam. So if you don't know these or you haven't studied these, then you should definitely get in touch with Home Studies because we can give you a little bit of extra tuition on that. For now, though, let's just look at the 2 patterns that we use when making passive reporting verbs. So the first, like we saw in the previous example, is subject plus the passive reporting verb plus the infinitive. So for example, New York City is said to be, or Paris is believed to be, or Madrid is known to be, and then the rest of the sentence. The second structure uses it as the subject. So it's it plus passive reporting verb and then the that clause. So for example, it is said that New York is the most Instagrammed place on earth, or it is believed that Paris is the most romantic city in the world, or it is known that Madrid is the capital of Spain. This is my cat Tessa. Isn't she an absolute sweetheart? She is so cute, but she's also, like most cats, extremely demanding. So she loves being stroked. It's one of her favorite things. And in fact, she expects to be stroked all the time. So here you can see that we've used 2 passive statements with different forms of the verb. In the first case, we've used the ing form, or the gerund, being stroked. And in the second example, we've used the infinitive, to be stroked. So the reason is that love and expect are verbs with different verb patterns. To love takes the ing, and to expect takes the infinitive. Now, verb patterns is another big topic that you have to be okay with when it comes to the exam. So if you don't know about verb patterns or you really could brush up on your knowledge and use of them, reach out to Home Studies. I'm sure we can help you. For now though, let's just do a little warm-up into the topic. So, can you please complete these 4 sentences using the right passive form? And it depends on the verb pattern. So what verb is taken by remember, hope, resent, and love? Is it with the infinitive or is it with the ing form? Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, so how did you go with that? So as you can see, to remember takes the ing. So I remember being bitten. To hope takes the infinitive. So hope to be selected. Resent again takes the ing. So resent being given. And love as well takes the ing. So love being spoiled. If you use love with would, so for example, I would love, then you can use it with the infinitive. So I would love to be spoiled by my grandma. But in the past simple, just like this, it would need to be with ing. So those are just 4 examples of verb patterns, and there are many more, but don't freak out because Home Studies is here to help you. So we're giving you a free download of the 40 most common verb patterns in English. That's right, just click the link below and you'll have everything you need in one handy document. So imagine it's springtime. Winter has ended and you go out into your garden and the grass is just like a jungle. So I imagine you'd say something like, oof, the grass really needs cutting. So here we've got the active form of need with ing. So we use this in a sense when we don't want to say exactly who needs to do the action, but we know that the action needs to be done. So for example, the grass needs cutting, the windows need washing, the laundry needs doing. And because it's got that passive element, we can use it in a passive form. So for example, the grass really needs to be cut. So here we use the passive plus the infinitive. So these 2 sentences have the exact same meaning, so you can use either when you are speaking or writing. And now it's over to you. So think about your home. What needs to be done? Perhaps your clothes need to be washed, or your floor needs to be mopped, or your toilet needs to be scrubbed. So get your ideas into the comments section below. It's a great opportunity to practice your writing using these new structures, and we'd love to hear from you. Well, that's going to do it. I hope you're feeling a lot more confident about when, how, and why to use the passive voice in your speaking. If you do feel like you got something out of this video, please go ahead and share it on your socials, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more of our grammar workshops. Okay, so have a wonderful rest of your day, and I hope I'll be seeing you in the next video.